welcome back to the channel. Chris Bruner here with Chris Bruner Photography, and it's been a while since I put out a video. It's been a couple months, really through the holidays and then through early January. A lot going on, I'm sure, with everybody, right? Dealing with the pandemic, dealing with the holidays, and then I did go back to a day job as an engineer, so wanted to get a month under my belt with that before I kicked out another video. So hey, I'm going to do a video today. I'm going to go through my workflow of how I get to a black and white photograph. Now, when I go out and shoot, I would say 90% of the time I'm focused on black and white. I'm looking for black and white images. I have my workflow set up for black and white. Now, I do capture my images in color. I may have mentioned this in previous videos. So when I shoot digital, I do capture in color. I start the editing process in color, and then I convert to black and white. And that's just the workflow that I've developed over the last, I don't know, 15 years since I converted to digital. So the image we're going to look at today is near my house, and it's actually an old junkyard that used to be there, an automotive junkyard. There's this house there. It's behind a fence. So it snowed the other day. We had our annual 4 inches of snow here in the upstate. As an interesting note, right, it snowed all night, snowed into the morning, maybe 5 inches. Woke up, it looked beautiful. By lunchtime that day, the sun came out. It was 55 degrees and the snow completely melted away. But when I woke up that morning and the sun had came up, I thought, hey, now's my chance to go and capture this home, this abandoned home in this junkyard near my house. So I pulled up over there, got up in the back of my truck, and then fired off some shots in the snow. Now, there's a few challenges with this particular photograph, and then we'll kind of step through those as we do the editing process. So what we'll do is we'll go through the Photoshop editing start to finish, and then we'll print the photograph and then see what it looks like, and then go from there. So hey, let's get into Photoshop now and edit this image. I sorted through the photographs from the abandoned home at the junkyard with the snow on the ground, and I settled on this one. Again, the sky has some nice blue tones to it. The other piece that I like about it is the snow has texture, so it's not completely blown out. There's a couple of spots here on the house that's blown out, you know, not a lot of detail in these areas, but overall, right, we have good details. We even have good shadow details here. And I mentioned it was a little bit tricky. Here's one of the tricky things about it, right? So this house faces pretty much east. So when the sun comes up, the best time, you know, to take this photo is in the morning. However, you always get this shadow on the front of the house. But with the snow this time, you know, we had some light bouncing around, so that helped a little bit. So we're gonna edit this particular image. So I shoot in RAW, so we'll edit in Camera Raw. It's the plugin in Photoshop. So I love this tool. It's a great tool. I've used it the entire time that I've edited RAW photos. Now, this is going to be my workflow. You know, I guess I'll put the caveat that there's many ways to do the things that I'm going to do. This is the way that I've developed for myself, and this is what works for me. So I'm going to go through how I work my photos and how I end up with the photographs that I offer, and then even the ones that I don't offer. But this is my workflow. The great thing I like about this tool is it's really in order as really kind of how you need to go. So I just kind of follow it in order. Okay, so the first thing I do, again, I check this image out. I like the tonality to it straight out of the camera. So I selected it, and then I just kind of search around the image and look at some of the things I'm going to have to do, right? So here's the fence, right? We'll either crop it out or we could clone it. You know, here's some briars that was growing up from the fence. You know, it's interesting when you take a photograph, you certainly don't see this, right? You're looking through the viewfinder and you're looking here. So sometimes you miss things like these branches, but again, nothing much I could do. But we can clone that out. And then there's this dark line, which is apparently the power line, which runs here right to the house, and it really made a really big dark shadow. It was pretty interesting how dark that was. So we can clone that out. And then finally, I'll probably clone some snow in here just to balance this out so you don't have this black hole in front of the house. So I don't do a lot of cloning, if you will, taking stuff out, adding stuff into photographs. I like to keep them pretty much like they are. But these are the kind of things that I use the clone tool. So first will be a white balance. So I click the eye dropper, and I keep my eye up here on the histogram. It's very important. It looks like a good histogram. We have some good information there. And then I'll just find a white spot and click on it. I really didn't see much of a change, so I'll go under here. So it gets a little warmer, a little warmer, a lot warmer. And then I'll just click around in the picture, right, and find the white, really just to kind of see where I want it to be. If I was doing some replications or something, I would have used a gray card. I could just click on it. But for me, as I click around on this picture, really here on the side of the house, this is white. I really like that. I like the white up on the roof, although it does lighten my sky up a little bit. So I'll just click around and I will find a good spot that I think looks good. And maybe there. Maybe this wood on the front. Yeah, so I think that looks good. It's pretty warm, but it looks good. And remember, when I'm doing this, I'm thinking about what it's going to look like in black and white. All right, so I've got my white balance set where I want. Then I just go straight down these tools. So exposure. So I usually pull the exposure down a little bit because I just like to darken up some of the shadows. I usually add contrast to my photographs, not a whole lot. And then the highlights. So I'll go all the way with the highlights just to kind of see what it looks like. And again, watching the histogram, you can see how it moves with the slider. So highlights. Picture's really warm right now. I like something like that. I'm going to add some shadows. Don't want to darken the shadows too much. Pretty much leave them the way they are. The whites, I like to go to the extremes with the whites. Again, the whites are pretty good. So I like those. Let's see. And then the blacks. You can, and it's funny, you can watch up here how you're pushing some blacks to the very edge, which is what we don't want to do. I want to kind of push them right till I get to the edge. All right, so I'm happy with that. So that's the first part of the editing that I do. Okay, so the second part is I'll drop down here to optics, and I'll typically, remove chromatic aberration, and then I'll use the profile correction, right? And notice how it kind of takes out the lens, how the lenses aren't flat, so your picture actually has kind of a sphere to it, so it'll actually take it out. And the great thing about this tool is it knows, hey, I was shooting with my Nikon, I was shooting with my 24-70 f2G, so it knows that, so it applies the correct profile correction to it. So I'd like to get that done. Next, I will go and do my conversion to black and white. Okay, so there we are straight out of the box. Now you can look, take the auto off. I can click back, the black and white's off. I can click it on, well, hold on, sorry. I can click it back on, off, on. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at right now. So the picture feels a lot brighter now, right, than it felt before. So I can go to the curves. I can bring the highlights down a little bit, bring the lights down, kind of get an S shape to my curve. So I'll just add a little more curve to it, and then the darks, I may bring them down a little bit. Okay, so that's kind of the first pass. Now the next thing I do, and this is the tool that I really like, is the black and white mixer. So I don't think we're going to have any reds, and I usually literally slide these all the way. So we don't really have any red. You can see the chimney here. It has some red in it. you know, so I can make it lighter black. Really doesn't matter. Orange, I probably don't have any orange. You can see a couple spots. This barn in the back, it's orange. You know, around the house is orange. I'll probably bring that down a little bit. Yellows, you know, the trees exhibit some yellows. I kind of light them up. I like to see the trees. The green, you know, not much green again in the trees. There's some green aquas. So the sky will contain some aquas. We'll bring that down. Blue. Okay, here you go. Here's the sky. So here's how you take your color photograph and you make your sky, you know, black. Okay, now one of the problems you run into when you do this is you get this, you know, chromatic issue up here that you try to take out. So it really highlights all these limbs, but that's okay. So again, I can move it all the way up. Not a very good photograph in black and white, and then I can start bringing it down and maybe to about here. And this is kind of what I envisioned when I actually captured the photograph. I envisioned the house being really bright, and I love the blue sky in the back, and I envisioned it being dark. There's really not a lot of purples. The sky will react with some purple. We can bring it down. The magentas, there's none. Okay, so that kind of gets us converted to black and white, and it gets our initial adjustments done here in the tool, the good old camera raw tool. So that kind of gets us there. I don't need, you know, I don't have any geometry issues. I don't have any effects. I'm not going to do that. No calibrations needed. You know, curves, we did that. So really, that's kind of the first major steps that I'll take in this tool, and then I'll basically just save the photograph. We can save it to the desktop for now, and go here. We can say junkyard number 2, since I already messed around with 1. All right, there we go. So now we're done in the raw tool. And again, there's many other things you can do in here. I like to get the basic editing done, and then I like to get into Photoshop. So I'll come here, open. I can go desktop, junkyard. Yep. So I do keep the embedded profiles if there is one there. All right, so there we go. So there's the image. And next, we're going to work on this line and this fence. Now, I have to decide now, do I want to crop to correct the fence? And I think I do. And again, I don't have a problem with cropping. Some photographers, they don't like to crop. You know, and hey, that's fine. It works for them. But for me, I don't mind doing some cropping. And one of the reasons I don't mind doing cropping is I do all my own printing. I do all my own matting and framing. So I have no problem with cutting a mat, you know, a slightly different size, right? I'm not constrained to the paper size. I can, you know, I print with roll paper, so I can make any aspect ratio that I want. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take that out, and it'll take out some of this thorn. And as far as these trees, I want to shift the house over, and plus this just isn't very pleasant, and that tree is not completely in. So I'm gonna shift this over, kind of get the house in the 1/3 section of the print, right? Rule of the thirds. Rules are meant to be broken, remember that. But for now, we'll get a nice easy composition. You know, this tree kind of balances us out a little bit. Okay, so that gets us to there. So let's work on this black line. Now again, I don't do a lot of cloning in and out of photographs. I mean, I never like add people or take people out or put stuff there that's not there. I will do some cleaning up. So today we're gonna clean this up a little bit just because we can. All right. So I'm just going to select this snow, and I'm not an expert at the cloning tool because I just don't use it that much. As you can see, I'm cloning that line. Alright, so if I come down through here, I'm going to get rid of that line. I don't like that. Edit. Undo that one. And a lot of people that edit photographs, they're really good and they use layers. I've never been a huge layer person, right? So all these different things that I'm doing, you can do in a layer, right? And again, there's pros and cons to that. But for me, this is kind of destructive editing in some ways, right? Because I'm actually changing this file. But since I bracket everything that I do when I shoot, so I have this file multiple times that if I ever needed to go back, I would have an original file. So we'll clean this up to here. Okay, so that kind of takes care of that. So we just clone that out. So let's save that file, save as. Now one thing I didn't do, I did want to mention when I was in the camera raw file or mixer is the texture, clarity, and dehaze. So I do add a little bit of that. I don't go overboard. I never try to go more than 10 either way, plus or minus 10. So I did mean to add a little texture. I wanted to add a little clarity around 8, and I did want to add some dehaze, probably around 10. That just sharpens it up a little bit, especially since I just cloned all that. Alright, let that save. File, save, good. Alright, so a couple more things we want to do. I want to try to get some of this dark shadow, brighten it up a little bit. So I like to zoom in, and you're never going to be able to, well, I'm sure some people can, but it's going to be hard to completely make this look like this bright spot, right? This is direct sun, and this is a shadow. Again, the good thing is that I had light bouncing with the sun off the snow up under here. Many times when I've gone to do this picture, this is really dark. The separation is too much to overcome, and I just can't get this picture. So that was one reason why I thought, hey, I can get this picture today because I'm going to have some snow and some reflection. And look, I'm just going to brighten this up a little bit. I'm not going to pretend like there wasn't a shadow there. Right, I'm just going to brighten that up. I might hit this a little bit. And that might be kind of it for me. I may burn this a little bit. I guess I need to go to, let's try midtones. So we'll add some midtone burn up. We'll add a little midtone burn here. Just to, it doesn't look that great. Yep. And really all I'm trying to do is balance this out a little bit more. If I can balance the bright, and I'm going to bring some of this down on purpose, right? And I can balance it out a little bit, just a little, so it's not such a harsh difference between this bright spot and over here where it's in the shadow. Again, you're not going to fool somebody to think that there wasn't a bright shadow that day, right? But that's okay. All right, so good. So that's kind of round one. Fit the screen file. I like to save a lot. You never can save too much. Okay, so that is kind of step one. Now, it does look a little muddy to me for a black and white photograph, meaning the snow looks kind of dark. I mean, we still have this nice bright white snow here, but notice how this snow isn't as bright as it was. We actually brought the texture out of it. So I will go back to adjustments, and I like the curves. And let's see, where are we at here? I might bring it up a little bit. That's too much. See if that's too much. That darkens it just a little bit in the. There we go. Okay. So now it's a little brighter. Now the snow is really more like it was when I was there. One other thing I want to do is this shadow here. Excuse me. I think that we can get some detail in that shadow. Just a little bit. Let's see if there's detail in there. Yeah, there is. Not much, but just a little bit. All right. Right there. All right. Fit screen. File. Save. Excuse me. All right. So this is kind of step one where I'm at. Now my process from here is I will print this image. I print all my test prints on a Epson luster paper. It's just a 260 weight paper. And I use the same paper. I have a roll of it. It's fairly inexpensive. So I always use the same paper. To me, it's a proofing paper. And I will print it on the Epson paper. We'll take a look at it. And then what we'll do is we'll actually mark the print up and then come back and do some more editing. There's clearly some areas that need editing that we're still going to have to do more editing. This is nowhere near a finished photograph, but it's kind of like round one. You know, I think I'll lighten this up some more. I like to bring a little bit more light around the house. You know, the more I look at it, there's more areas that, you know, I need to do some work on. So let's save this. And then let's print it on this Epson paper, this 260, right? And then we'll take a look at it, and then we will make our next round of edits here. The last thing I do before I do my first print is to sharpen. I do unsharp mask. You can also do smart sharpen. That works really well. I usually don't go over 100 on my radius. I don't go really over 2. You know, but again, when you're working with these tools, just move them and see what they do. You know, that softens it up. So about 1.5 threshold. 12 is kind of the limit that I go to. As you can see, it smooths out too much. I like to stay around 12. So we're going to go about 90, 1.5 and 12. That'll leave us a little room if we want to sharpen some later. All right, so there we go. So hey, let's go get this image printed, and then in the next video we'll do round 2 of the editing. We'll print it and we'll do the round 2 editing, and then we'll mat it. So until next time, have a good day.